Welcome to Journey to the Ice Wall, Chapter 4, Fresh Smoked Asian Carp. I woke up the next morning shivering cold and feeling very ill. I've since determined that the FEMA chemtrail airplane was spraying more than the normal mind control agents. It was spraying military-grade nerve agent. I can prove this fact by pointing out that the spray was long-lasting and debilitating. In any case, how else could you account for the fact that all three of us were equally affected? All three of us. In a rare moment of weakness, I totally forgot about Ranger Dan and Larry. Had I really left Dan to face last night's siege alone while he was incapacitated by FEMA nerve agent? He must have fought bravely until the end. That's the kind of guy old Dan was, a man of action. As my mind cleared, I realized that Dan saved the lives of Larry and I last night by drawing fire away from us. Larry, where was Larry? I remember seeing Larry slam into the tree and fall to the ground, so he must have been killed or taken prisoner by the NASA assault force. I kept low to conceal my position, as now I had to extract myself from the battlefield and regroup. It was then that I saw two figures in the distance, sitting on a rock ledge. Surely they must be part of some mop-up unit sent by the assault unit to eliminate all witnesses. I instantly fell to the ground and began to low crawl down the hill. But then a voice cried out from the direction of the two mop-up unit members. "Hey, Memphis, over here." It sounded like Larry's voice. He was being tortured by NASA, and now he was calling for help. I couldn't let him down, so I picked up a stick from the forest floor and mounted a bonsai charge toward the two men. Swinging his stick and screaming, "Charge!" I attacked the rock ledge. However, halfway to my goal, I kind of ran out of wind and slowed to a walk, and then hid behind a tree. From behind the tree, I heard the voice again. "Hey, Memphis, it's us, Larry and Dan." No doubt about it this time. Larry's calling for help. I disregarded the pain in my head from nerve gas and resumed my charge up the hill. With my normal superhuman strength, I reached the position of my beleaguered comrades in about 10 seconds flat, and then took my position on top of the rock ledge. My charge up the hill was effective, as the noise I made scared away the mop-up unit, and they scattered like chickens into the forest on our flank. "Larry, take the right flank," I ordered. "Ranger Dan, take the left flank. I'll create a diversion to our rear." As I was throwing rocks into the forest, Larry climbed up on the rock ledge and tugged at my arm. "I don't think NASA attacked us last night. Ranger Dan thinks the bells were ringing because of the thunderstorm and the wind," Larry said. I looked down at Ranger Dan, who was still sitting on the rock ledge. "Dan, Larry must have hit his head pretty hard last night when he fell off the zip line." "By the way," said Ranger Dan, "nobody has ever gone down that zip line before. You two are the first." I became annoyed with Dan's failure to correct Larry's hallucinations about the last night's attack. "Ranger Dan, did you really tell Larry it was only the wind?" Nobody had gone down that zip line before, replied Ranger Dan, and no nation has ever attacked Fortress Clyde. I leaned against my stick and wondered what was happening. Mind control agent, or perhaps both of my friends had been injected with a Bill Gates microchip. Who's to say? Larry was still young enough to educate, but Ranger Dan might be too far gone to help. But perhaps Ranger Dan could help Larry and I in our journey to the ice wall. Well, anyway, I replied to Ranger Dan, the assault force is gone for now, and Larry and I need to continue our fight against NASA and our quest for the ice wall. Problem is, I don't have an official flat Earth map. Do you have one? Ranger Dan thought for a while and then replied, No, I don't have a map, but I bet my friend Tripper Steele would have one. He lives off-grid about 5 miles down the road. He has a computer and a television, and he says he completed 2.5 semesters of junior college. Ranger Dan gave both Larry and I a copper wristband, and we made our way down the dirt road to Tripper Steele's off-grid homestead. Ranger Dan told us that Tripper made a living by selling smoked Asian carp, receiving YouTube ad revenue, and processing roadkill into nutritious, delicious dog food. Ranger Dan also told us that we couldn't miss Tripper's place because there was a large windmill in the yard and that his shipping container house was covered with solar panels. When we got to Tripper's place, he was in the front yard shooting watermelons with a crossbow. It's always deer season around here, remarked Tripper as we got out of the truck. Besides, I sure like the sound of that thud when the arrow hits the watermelon. Plus, it drives a game warden nuts when he sees me with my crossbow. My name is Memphis Applegate, and this is Larry Berry, I said as I approached Tripper. You found me on YouTube, I bet, responded Tripper. Which channel? My off-grid channel or my Flat Earth channel? Flat Earth channel, I replied with astonishment. We have come to the right place. Larry and I are sovereign citizens authorized by the Postmaster General to travel to the ice wall and put to rest the crazy notion of a giant ball Earth floating in space. Tripper put down his crossbow and jogged up to the shipping container house. A few minutes later, he was back with his camera and a tripod. I need to film this for my channel, said Tripper. My viewers will be thrilled to hear about an actual expedition to the ice wall. The three of us sat down on the grass under a sweet gum tree in Tripper's front yard, and he started the camera. Tripper looked into the camera and started talking. Important video today, folks, as we have Memphis and Larry midway in their journey to the forbidden ice wall. Sum up your trip so far. Well, Tripper, we started in Maryland where we were arrested when they found out we were on our way to the ice wall. We have been attacked by NASA, FEMA, the CIA, and the FBI. They installed tracking devices in us, and I believe the NASA assault team injected Larry here with a Bill Gates microchip last night. Larry, I've heard about those chips, said Tripper. What has been the effect? Larry, who had been quiet up to this point, spoke up. It wiped out my memory, I guess, as this morning I thought last night's attack by NASA was just a thunderstorm. Juicy stuff, replied Tripper. Have they hit you with nerve gas or cosmic radiation? That is pretty common, you know. No cosmic radiation that I know of, I replied, but they did hit us with nerve gas, mustard gas, and jammed our compass with a NASA death ray. We actually came here today to see if you could help us find a flat Earth map. We'll never find the ice wall using the fake maps issued by the New World Order. Tripper turned off the camera and jogged back to the house. He returned a few minutes later, turned the camera back on, and made a production of handing me the official flat Earth map. As you see, Memphis, there is no east or west on the map, just north to the North Pole and south to the ice wall and the edge of the crystal dome. It looks like the shortest way by land is going through South America, said Larry. But if all directions are south, then what direction from here do we need to go to reach Mexico? Remember, the Earth is flat, responded Tripper. You simply draw a vector from where you are to where you want to go, then stay on that line. Yeah, that makes sense to me, I said. Tripper turned the camera off and again jogged back to the house. He returned a few minutes later with a brown, grease-stained paper bag. Would you guys like to buy some fresh smoked Asian carp? $10 a pound. As we pulled out of Tripper's yard, the truck started filling up with dust from the road, which was then coating our supper of fresh smoked Asian carp. But that was the least of our troubles, as Tripper's game warden friend was parked across the road from Tripper's place, and he pulled in behind us as soon as we passed him. We've been under surveillance, I told Larry. Or it could be that Tripper is an illegal poacher and the game warden was watching him, not us, was Larry's response. It's going to be a long trip to the ice wall if you don't get wiser in the tricks of the enemy, I replied to Larry. It'll be a long, long trip to the ice wall.